This month marks 1 year since I've been on YouTube, and I realize I haven't done a shop tour yet. So that's what we're doing today. Stick around and check it out. In this video, I'm going to show you how I went from this to this. Now, this shop is a 2-car garage, but like most of you, I have to share it with some other things. Some of it's like for kids' toys and bikes and whatnot, and some of it's, to be honest, kind of junk. So it's really like a 1-car garage. This shop has a few limitations. First, it only has 2 outlets. One of them, behind the camera right now, I use for my freezer and run an extension cord out for some of my shop tools. The other one is behind that workbench over there, which I'll show you in a minute, and I use it for the preponderance of my shop tools. The problem is they don't carry very much load, so I'm popping breakers unless I spread the load across both plugs. For instance, I'll run my table saw on one plug and my dust collector on the other plug. Otherwise, I'm going to pop a breaker. So the other problem is that these walls are very thin, specifically this wall here and the one above me. Now on the other side of this wall is our living room with our TV. So anytime there's any noise going on, any football or something playing on the TV, or anytime the family's in there doing anything that's even marginally loud, you can hear it through that wall, which doesn't bode well for when I'm recording videos. Also above me is our bedroom. So you can imagine when I'm down here building stuff in the middle of the night, it's a little bit difficult for the wife to get some sleep. So these are just a couple of things that I'll have to deal with until I move and get, hopefully, a bigger and better shop. Okay, so this is what you normally see in my videos when I'm building a project. But what you don't see is what's behind the camera. And that's the dirty little secret about this tiny shop. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I've got these 2 mobile carts that I have to move every time I want to set up my shop. They block the exit of the garage, so I have to keep them out of the way during the day. And there are a lot of times when I'm changing shots during projects for these videos that I have to move them around, and sometimes I even use them for the camera stand. But once I get them out of the way, I have plenty of room.
Look at all this floor space. So much aerobics in here. So many activities.
All right, now that you've seen behind the curtain, let me show you around my shop. So when you walk into the garage, if I have plywood or some kind of sheet goods, I'll bring it to this area, which gives me just enough space to break down a full sheet of plywood. Any excess I'll store over to the side, out of the way, until I need it. All right, so let's start at the heart of the shop. This is my table saw. There are many like it, but this one is mine. I actually did a review on this table saw, and I'll link it right here. I also did a project video on the table saw sled, and I'll put that in the description. This is the heart of the shop. I use probably the table saw more than any other tool in the shop, and I really do enjoy it. My review is basically the same after almost a year now. What I would say though is that I would like one day to have a larger table saw, like a floor standing one, so that I can handle larger sheet goods and just have a bigger capacity. That all being said, this is a great table saw for a small shop like mine. Now coming down here to under the table saw, I have a lot of things that I will use on the table saw here. You got push blocks and feather boards, miter gauges, things I use on the table saw pretty regularly. You've also got these 1, 2, 3 blocks, and I'll put links to some of these products in the description so you can go check them out. Now in the second drawer is all my manuals. I just keep everything in here just so I know where they all are. And in the bottom drawer, a lot of replacement saw blades, some dust collection stuff, and some random things here and there that I need from time to time. Now picking up and coming around the shop, we're going to go to the miter saw. Now you may have seen my YouTube short on this saw. It's a Harbor Freight Chicago electric saw. I'm okay with it. I like it. It's served me well for a few years now, but it's just not as precise as I would like it to be. And let me know in the description below if you'd like to see a review video on this particular product. I saved a ton of money on buying this particular model over something like, you know, a DeWalt or something like that. And like I said, it served me well. It's large enough capacity to cut pretty much anything I want it to, but it's time to move on. I also have this flexible dust hood, which is one of the better dust collection solutions that I've seen, and it empties down into a bucket down there just because I don't want to dedicate dust collection to it. There's a lot better solution, I'm sure, but for right now, this actually works really well for me. Now underneath there, I've also got my bin of some of my hardwood scraps. And in here, you got some walnut, some red oak. I think I've even got a little bit of cedar in here, so I guess it's not all hardwood. One of these days, I'll figure out what to build with it, but I just can't get rid of it. All right, moving on. So moving down into the shop, you see my new bandsaw, or at least new to me. This was handed down to me from my dad, and I got to clean it up and get it working. And then under here, you can see I'll use whatever available space I have. In this case, I have a scroll saw under there. I don't like to waste space, and under this bandsaw is not the greatest place to store stuff, so I'm gonna have to figure out a storage solution for this. And then right here behind my bandsaw is this jointer, which is currently out of commission because the bed is warped and so it doesn't cut straight. Moving left, this is my Harbor Freight dust collector. So just like with the miter saw, for the dust collector, I wanted something cheap but effective until I get enough money to be able to afford the higher end stuff. So this thing has enough capacity to handle the bigger tools in my shop, which are my table saw and my planer. So I'm pretty happy with it for the little time that I've had it. And speaking of dust collection, if you look above you, you'll see I also have this WIN air filtration system. And I've had it for a little while now too. It's served me pretty well. I have it running pretty much anytime I'm in the shop, and it has a time delay so that when you're done in the shop, it continues to clean the air, and so you don't have all that particulate settling in your shop and making it a dusty mess, which is still kind of inevitable. Now, one day I might put out a video for my entire dust collection system, so make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get notified when that video hits. Okay, let's move on. Right next to my dust collection system is my floor model drill press, also from my dad, and also I need to get it working. So now we come to the center of the shop. So my workbench is a spin-off of the Ron Paulk workbench. I actually think I bought his plans and did pretty much everything he did, at least for the carcass of the top. I didn't do the legs that he did. I did some, I think, Harbor Freight fold-out sawhorses, which work for me pretty well. It's not the most sturdy thing, which I want to try and fix that in the future. But I was able to incorporate this router lift, and I really enjoy all the dog holes that it gives me for clamping things to it and securing my work pieces. All along the top of my workbench, you can see my kids have drawn pictures and really gone crazy with it. I kind of like it. I don't really want to get rid of it. Now I'll leave a link in the description for Ron Paulk's workbench so you can go pick up plans or build one just like it. Now the other great thing about this workbench is that it has a ton of storage down below. Let me show you that. So down here, I'll keep these black and yellow bins for storing all the stuff I don't use on a regular basis. Some of it has hand tools that I don't use frequently. I've got my painting supplies down here and other things that just don't belong up and out, quick and easy access. In total, I have 8 of these bins of various sizes just to store everything I need out of the way. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Old Glory and the Marine Corps flag. This month also marks the 19th year I've served in the Marine Corps, and maybe in 1 year I can do this woodworking gig full time. Now moving around to the other side of the bench, you probably saw in the background, and I'm sure it gave some of you a twitch.
Look at my eye twitching.
Yes, I have some Festool tools. Okay, so hear me out. If I can buy a tool that can gain me a tremendous amount of efficiency in the shop while I'm building my projects, I'm probably going to do it. This sander costs a whole lot of money, but it flies through the sanding process. One of the things I hate the most. So if I can not have to do something I really don't enjoy doing and be more efficient, that's a huge win in my book. I also have the Festool Domino, which I haven't used yet. That's for a future video. Keep on the lookout for that one too. And then down at the bottom, I have the dust extractor as well. It came as a whole kit because my wife is awesome and she got it for me for Christmas. Let's be honest. I bought it for me from her for Christmas. You know what I'm talking about. And coming around here, I've got all the power tools that I will use most frequently, always at the ready whenever I need them. On this other side, you've got the tool wall that I've done in a previous video as well, and I'll link that one up here. And then down under here, I've got my air compressor, and I'll put all of my air compressor tools right here in the Polk workbench so I can have them at the ready whenever I'm working my projects. Now zooming out here, you've got one of the oldest pieces in the shop probably, and that is this workbench. Now I built it at about 2008, and it has stood the test of time. It's made with some lag bolts, 2x4s, and plywood, and I haven't had a problem with it. Now over the years, I've made some modifications to it. The first one is what I would call this Moxon vise. Check it out. So just like that, I've got a nice vise on a sturdy workbench to do whatever work the project calls for. Now, as you're walking around the shop and you don't need this vise, you don't really want all of this hanging out, and so it breaks down in about 30 seconds just as quickly as it sets up. Just like that. Another modification I made for this workbench is for this vise. Now I don't use it very often, so I don't want it up here all the time. I actually store it down here to the side, and then I drilled these 3 holes here to match the vise. And so when I need it, I just bolt it in from the bottom. It's nice and sturdy, and then I can use it. When I'm done with it, I unbolt it and I stow it away. It's a really neat accessory for this workbench. Now moving over here, I also incorporated some drawers and some shelves, which I also borrowed from Ron Polk in his smart mobile wood shop, where it's just plywood running on a dado, so there's no hardware required. I would say though that a lot of sawdust does get in these handles, but it's not really that big of a deal. One of these days I'll address it. And so this is where I've got a lot of the things that I'll use pretty frequently, but don't necessarily want up on my tool wall or won't fit on my tool wall. I also built this workbench to where these drawers can slide out on either side, but I haven't really used that very much. This workbench is on wheels, so I can move it anywhere I need to, and I have used that on occasion, so I think I'm going to leave it the way it is. One more thing that I'll add is this small parts bin storage. I have 2 shelves, drawer thingies that I can use for my small parts or screws, and I just like how I can pull it out, grab something, close it up, don't even have to lock it, and then I'll push it right back in and it's out of the way. If I've got a project out here on the workbench, I don't have to make space for this bin. Just pull it out, get what I need, push it back in, move on with life. It's pretty cool. I'll put a link in the description for the plans for this bench. It's a quick and easy build and super cheap, and it will last you many, many years. We're going on 15 for me having this one. It's a really good addition to your shop. Now just 2 more things to go. The first one is this Craftsman workbench that's pretty old. My mother-in-law gave it to me when her brother passed away, and I keep pretty much mechanics type tools in there. I've got some socket wrenches, some pliers, some screwdrivers and stuff like that. Stuff I don't use necessarily all the time, but I need it, and so it's here. I'm not going to show you the inside of these drawers because it's pretty disorganized, and that's an area I really need to work on. I also have my gloves and some tape and some other stuff that I can use pretty frequently on top, and then leaning up against it is my track saw track. All right, let's go to the last thing over here on the wall, back where we started. Now coming around here, you can see it's kind of a disheveled mess. This is all my scrap wood, and then I've got my clamp wall up here behind it. I might do a different solution because when I'm trying to get my clamps, these kind of get in the way sometimes. And so I've got a solution coming for the longer stock, and then maybe some of the others, the hardwoods and stuff that I'll use. So you may not be able to tell it, but this is a mobile cart that I got from Steve Ramsey over at Woodworking for Mere Mortals long time ago. And I really like it. You got the sheet goods on the back. You've got some compartments if you wanted to sort some stuff. And then for your really tall wood, you've got here in the front row. And obviously I lean things up against it as well. It really works out for me. It's quick and easy, especially for this side. If I needed the The panels are the sheet goods. I can actually move these out of the way and access those. But if I ever needed to, it's on wheels. I can move it out and move it around and access whatever I need to. It's a great piece of gear. So that's it for the stuff that doesn't really move. Let me show you what's on my mobile tool carts. All right, so this is what I would call Big Bertha. It's about a 3 foot by 3 foot mobile cart. On the bottom, I store some extra hoses and some other things. Definitely some room for improvement. But on the top, I have my bench top drill press, my bench top bandsaw. I've got a spindle sander over here and then a belt sander over here. None of it's really secured down. Never really had much of a problem. I just move this cart all around the garage here, and it really serves me well. For the most part, I can use these tools just by twisting them a little bit so they can get out of the way of the other tools, and I haven't really had a problem with it yet. So big takeaway, any shop tours you ever see or any small shop solution organization tips, the top of the list is a mobile tool cart. This thing is money. All right, and then here's the last one. It's another mobile tool cart that I've got my planer sitting on top of. It pretty much stays here because this thing's a beast. Now, I'm not gonna show you anything else about this mobile tool cart because it's the subject of a future video. But anytime you can put wheels on something in a small shop, it really helps out. Well, I hope you got some inspiration or some ideas for your shop out of this video. If you have any questions or wanna see anything else, let me know in the comments below. I try to respond to each and every one. This is not my dream shop by any means, but I'm happy with it as it is. It's a result of small incremental improvements and changes over time. I'd like to post a shop tour every year or two because I like to see how much the shop changes between each time. And if you'd like to see more videos about shop setup and organization, I got a playlist queued up right here for you. That's it for this video. We'll see you next time.